A roadside bomb targeting tourists has killed at least 4 people near the Giza pyramids in Egypt. At least 10 others were injured when a tour bus was hit south of the capital, Cairo. Here's Paul Chajergian.
Egyptian security services quickly cordoned off the area where the roadside bomb exploded. The improvised homemade bomb was placed near a wall along Mariutia Street in a district near the Giza pyramids. The dead were part of a group of 14 Vietnamese on a tour bus being driven around the historic sites.
The most important thing is to provide medical care to all those who were injured. We give our deepest condolences to those who lost their lives in this incident, whether Egyptian or the tourists who died.
Egyptians and tourists have been targeted in recent years as Egypt tries to suppress armed groups in the Sinai Peninsula. The conflict has occasionally spilled over to Cairo and resort towns.
Sometimes attacks such as this one can occur. It may even happen again in the future. And there isn't a country in the world where we can say is 100% safe.
In November, gunmen opened fire on 2 buses up the Nile River from Cairo. The ambush in the Minya province in central Egypt took the lives of at least 7 people who were returning from a baptism. 18 others, including children, were wounded. ISIL claimed responsibility for the attack. In March, Egypt's Interior Ministry's top security official survived an assassination attempt in Alexandria, which took the lives of 2 policemen and injured 5 others. Major General Mustafa al-Nimr was targeted by a roadside explosion which struck his convoy near his headquarters. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack, which came 2 days before Egyptians began voting in a presidential election. A bomb attack 3 years ago killed Egypt's state prosecutor Hisham Barakat as his convoy was driving through a busy upmarket eastern suburb of Heliopolis. In May of 2017, gunmen attacked a bus and cars traveling through southern Egypt. 26 people were killed and 25 others injured, according to the health ministry. Witnesses said masked men opened fire after stopping the bus and cars. There were no immediate claims of responsibility for this attack, which came on the eve of the holy month of Ramadan. The attack was followed by a series of church bombings claimed by ISIL. In 2017, 2 German tourists were killed and 4 others injured during an attack in the Red Sea resort town of Hurghada. Security services said a suspected ISIL member swam from a public beach onto a private resort and began stabbing tourists. Tourism has been an important factor for the Egyptian economy. Prior to the Arab Spring uprising against the former President Hosni Mubarak in 2011, some 15 million tourists would vacation there. That number dropped significantly since then, down to about 5 million annually due to concerns over the security situation as attacks against tourists have made headlines around the world. Armed groups have killed hundreds of Egyptian soldiers and police since the army toppled the first democratically elected president of Egypt, Mohamed Morsi, in 2013. Paul Chajergian, Al Jazeera.
Let's talk now to Dalia Fahmy. She is Associate Professor of Political Science at Long Island University and a member of the Egyptian Rule of Law Association. Dalia Fahmy, welcome to the News Hour here on Al Jazeera. In your opinion, why is it that the Egyptian authorities can't get a handle on the groups or the people that perpetrate this kind of attack?
So we've seen a very troubling escalation in the past year. Historically, what Ansar Beit al-Maqdis, before they joined ISIL in 2013, did was attack either Israel or security apparatus in Sinai. But they've then escalated, and they've now moved outside of the Sinai Peninsula, which they believe belongs to them, and are targeting tourists in the heart of Egypt, right by the pyramids. And so what they're doing is signaling to the Egyptian regime that they're moving out of their own territory and now attacking the very primary source of income for many Egyptians. About 30% of the economy goes to tourism. And so what they're doing is signaling that not only are they not in control, as the president continues to say, rather they're actually escalating. Now, terrorism functions in an interesting way. Terrorist groups traditionally target security apparatus, the police, and the military, which was what Ansar Beit al-Maqdis did. But when they joined ISIL, they started targeting any symbols of the state. The third stage that terrorist groups usually do or enter into is when they start attacking civilians, and in this case, tourists. And this is what they have been doing for the past year. We saw it begin last winter right at this time when they attacked two shrines. And since then, it's been attacks on tourists and mosques and churches.
Is what we're seeing right now in Giza, is that an escalation?
Absolutely. They've moved out of their safe territory for them, which was the Sinai, and now they're going right by the pyramids. They're signaling two things: to the state that they are in the heart of Egypt, and to Egyptian society that they have something to fear. Terrorism is about instilling fear in the heart of people so that they start to change their behavior. Tourists will not come, and secondly, Egyptians will start to ask for things of their country, of their government, that are exactly what the terrorist group wants.
Why has there not been a claim of responsibility as yet?
So they have not claimed, no one has claimed responsibility. And so there's two reasons. Either it is not ISIL or Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis, and this is a new group, or they're still trying to hedge their bets and see what the fallout will be, and will this be perceived as a win. When terrorists act, they usually do it for a political objective. It's not clear here what the political ask is. It might become clear in the next couple of days, but as in the pattern that has been established in the past 16 months, some acts have not been claimed, while others that have been seen as actually terrorizing a swath of the population have been claimed by ISIL.
ISIL clearly not completely defeated, despite what the US president says in Syria. Not completely defeated in Iraq either. But is what we're seeing in Egypt a reaction to being a little bit on the run in places like, in countries like Syria, like Iraq?
It could either be perceived as ISIL on the run or as ISIL taking foothold in places that are seen as having defeated terrorism in countries like Egypt. If you remember, outside of the past 8 years of the revolution, terrorism was defeated in Egypt in the 1990s. We haven't seen terrorist acts, maybe some sparse ones. But for ISIL to respond to both the international community, primarily Donald Trump, and President Sisi, who has said ISIL and Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis are on the retreat, is a signal that, unfortunately, they are here to stay if they are indeed behind us.
Is that representing a particular problem for people like Mr. al-Sisi, then? I mean, he's used to fighting other people. He's used to taking on political opponents now. Has maybe the sharpness gone off his weaponry, if you will?
I think President Sisi can no longer claim the war on terror narrative and attack his own civilian population. We're seeing a stark increase. It was just 2 years ago that we saw the downing of a Russian plane that was carrying tourists. We're seeing, again, another pattern targeting this time period of holidays, of people coming from Latin America and Russia and the Caucasus, which is primarily where the tourists come from at this time period. And for there to be, again, instilling of fear, canceling, we will probably see canceling of major tourist groups, is signaling to Sisi that you have a bigger problem, and you should probably, what most terrorist experts have been saying, is to stop clamping down on your own people and maybe start really fighting terror where it is, because now it's moved into Cairo proper.
OK, thank you so much for your time here on Al Jazeera. Dalia Fahmy joining us live there from New Jersey in the States.